Want to know how you can tell upfront if a company might be getting into trouble? Then you definitely need to know how to analyze a cash flow statement. Today I will deep dive into analyzing a cash flow statement, and I will show you how to separate a good from a bad cash flow statement, and that cash is not always king. Hi everyone, this is Tom from the Dividend Attitude. First of all, again, thank you to all of the people who have liked, subscribed and commented on my previous videos. I went from under 20 subscribers to almost 50 subscribers right now, so let's keep that going. In my previous videos I went over the income statement line by line, and then in the video after that I went over the balance sheet line by line. So if you haven't watched those videos, definitely watch them. I will put a link in the description below this video. And today I will be going over the cash flow statement, which is the third and last financial statement that a publicly traded company has to file. At the end of the video I will also show you an overview of my portfolio in Pink Bank and the Giro, so stay tuned for that. In the next video of this series I will be going over analyzing aspects of the company that are not quantitative but qualitative, such as products, their business model, how to measure up their management team, get a general feel about the company. So more exciting stuff coming. If you want to stay up to date, then just subscribe and hit the notification bell next to it. Get notified as soon as I post a new video. What I really like about the cash flow statement is that it shows you exactly what happened to the cash inside the company. It basically explains why the cash balance went from X in year 1 to Y in year 2. Income statement shows you how much money a company made and spent. Balance sheet shows you where the money is, and a cash flow statement shows you where money went. I will show you how that works in a bit. But first, what is a cash balance? In the previous video I explained what the line on the balance sheet, which says cash and cash equivalents, meant. A cash balance is formed because money flows into the company through customers paying, but also if a company is issuing more shares or taking on other kinds of debt, the money flowing out of the company by paying suppliers, paying out dividends, repaying debt, making investments, for example. Cash flow is often compared to the flow of water. See it as a lake that holds a body of water. There's water flowing in through a river, and there's most likely water flowing out through an outgoing river. The amount of water that is in that lake can be compared to the cash balance of a company on the balance sheet at any given moment in time. And the inflow of water into that lake is like cash flow into the company, whereas the water flowing out of that lake is the cash flow out of the company. So a cash flow statement captures all of that inflowing and outflowing water, so the money. The cash flow statement is divided into three parts. Cash flow from operations. This is all the cash that is flowing in when customers pay and flowing out when suppliers are paid. And this is the most important part of the cash flow statement because this is the lifeblood. This should be positive for a good cash flow statement. Then we have cash flows from investing. This includes capital expenditures going out, acquisitions also going out, and divestments coming in. This should be negative. It means they are investing into the future. Then thirdly, we have cash flows from financing. That can be debt flowing in, repaying debt, flowing out, or paying dividends, also flowing out. The cash flows from financing should also be negative because it means they're paying down than they are taking on debt. A strong cash flow statement shows a positive cash from operations and a negative cash flow from investing and financing. This means the company is investing into the future, resulting in an outflow of money, paying off more debt than it is incurring, resulting in a cash flowing out. Like I said, we like to see an increasing cash flow from operations. Looking at 3M, the net cash from operations increased nicely year over year from 2018 to 2019. We can also see that the bulk of that is coming from a changing working capital. In 2018 it was negative 272 million, and in 2019 it is 803 million. So the working capital is the difference between the current assets and the current liabilities. So positive working capital is a good sign, and it means that the company is able to pay its short-term obligations. So basically that it has more current assets than current liabilities. And you can compare it to hitting that like button to increase the amount of likes of this video. Me and the YouTube algorithm will like that. Next up is the cash flow from investing. Cash flow from investing should be negative, like I said before. Looking at 3M, we can observe that the cash flow is indeed negative from 2019 compared to a positive in 2018. This means 3M is investing into its future cash flow. You can also see that the bulk of that is coming from acquisitions and from purchases of investments. So this means that 3M is investing a net of 6.4 billion into its future cash flow. Then we have the cash flow from financing. Again, this should be negative. I keep repeating this because it might be counterintuitive, but it's good if this is negative. It means they're paying down more debt than they're issuing. For 3M, that is indeed the case, but unfortunately, it's a lot lower than it was in 2018. We can see that 3M is repaying more debt than 2018, but they also issued substantially more debt. So that's where the main difference is coming from. We can also see that they are paying out more dividends 2019 compared to 2018. So a quick recap, the cash flow statement of 3M is looking quite good. We have a net cash flow from operations. We have a negative cash flow from investments. It means they're investing. And we have a negative net cash flow from financing. It means they're paying down more in debt than they're issuing. Now let's take a quick look at a cash flow statement which is not looking so good. It's the cash flow statement from AMD, especially in 2015, 2016. It was horrible. If we take 2015, we can see the net cash from operations was a negative 226 million. So it is negative instead of positive. The net cash from investments is positive, which should be negative. So they have made quite some divestments to come up with money. And making less investments also has a direct impact on the future. You can also see that in the year after 2015, net income of 2016 was also negative, and there was just a small profit from operations. And it was not until 2017 where they were making more investments again. If we then go down to the cash flow from financing, again in 2015, 2016, we can see a positive number, which means they're taking on more debt than they're repaying. So now you've seen an example of a good cash flow statement from 3M with a positive cash flow from operations, a negative cash flow from investments, and a negative cash flow from financing, and the bad cash flow statement with a negative cash flow from operations, a positive cash flow from investments, meaning they have divested more than they have invested, and a positive cash flow from financing, meaning they have issued more debt than they have repaid. Now on to the bottom part, and that is how we can explain the difference of the cash balance on the balance sheet between 2018 and 2019. You can see here that the net change in cash was negative 500 million for 3M in 2019. At the start of 2019 there was a cash balance of 2.8 billion, and at the end of 2019 there was a cash balance of 2.3 billion, so a difference of 500 million. If we go back to the balance sheet, we can see the same numbers. The 2.8 billion in cash in 2018 and the cash balance of 2.3 billion at the end of 2019. So now we have dissected where the difference in cash balance from 2018 to 2019 came from. What can we conclude from this? Yes, the amount of cash on the cash balance of 3M has decreased, but we observed that 3M is investing heavily by looking at the negative cash flow from investment and that they have a positive cash flow from operation. Combine that with the fact that 3M has a return on capital of 17%, and I think the cash flow statement of 3M is looking pretty good. Then at the very bottom of the cash flow statement we find free cash flow. The free cash flow represents the cash that is left over for creditors and investors after deducting all the operating expenses and investments in capital, such as maintenance of equipment, buildings, etc. It's important for us dividend investors because this is a good way to measure how much the free cash flow is used to pay out the dividend. So in order to measure the safety of the dividends, we can calculate the free cash flow payout ratio by dividing the dividends by the free cash flow. In the case of 3M, that comes out as 3.3 billion divided by 5.3 billion times 100% is 62%. And now a quick update on my portfolio. In 2020 it is still at a negative 24% and a negative amount of almost 2,000. Take a look at the return in 2020. We can see the green line is my portfolio against the S&P 500 mini future, which is the benchmark. Blue line, my portfolio is a bit lower than the benchmark, but both are climbing up a bit again after storing up of the markets this week. Mind you, these returns are excluding dividends. And now since the start of my portfolio in 2017, you can see it went up till here in February, and then it crashed down along with the S&P 500. And right now it is showing a positive of 6% almost overall against 5.4 of the benchmark. But as dividend growth investors, what we care about is the dividends coming in, not so much the total portfolio performs over a short amount of time. We can see here that despite the crash, dividends are still coming in. So I got so far 3 dividends coming in March. Johnson & Johnson, PF Corp and Qualcomm. And Qualcomm actually just raised the dividend. And then my portfolio in the Giro, where I hold 3M and Tancher Factory outlet centers. Both are in red, whereas SKT is significantly in red. And naturally that's the one I'm most worried about. I think they still will be paying out dividends and will be increasing them. over time. Then a quick overview of my portfolios in Bink and Giro combined. Google Sheets. Cost of my portfolio is $8.3 thousand. Dividends so far, excluding March, are $704. The value right now is at $7,600, which is a minus 8% change compared to the cost, minus almost $700. Including dividends, it's now at a very nice 0.22% increase and $18 increase. My portfolio yield is 5.9. Yield on cost is 5.41 and annual income is $450. What's very important here is that you have to realize that even though long term this is a winning strategy, in short term you can see that after 2 years I'm in red, and that's the result of the market swinging up and down. But that's why you have to have a long-term vision and believe in your investment process, because like I said in the previous video, it's about making the right decisions, and those decisions don't always reflect straight away into your portfolio value or in the profit you're making in your portfolio, but over the long term those decisions will reflect in your portfolio and increase in your portfolio value. So that's what you have to keep in mind. I hope you learned something new today. So I'm actually curious what your biggest takeaway from this video is, so please let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like my content and would like to show your support, then let me know by subscribing or liking the video. If you would like to share the content with friends, then you can use the share button underneath the video. Until next time, bye bye.